I'm very liberal.
Okay, nice. Okay. Just wanted to make
But
sure.
they,
Sure.
I always like lower, yeah, definitely lower, which is also with the lid on.
Okay.
Put your shawl down on the chair, Mom. Right there. Wherever they want. Oh, Rabbi.
Your Phyllis. Yes, my condolences to you. I am the rabbi honored to officiate. Well, that was my last pulpit as the cantor. How did you know?
Well, I'll tell you how, because I met you. Family in Carson 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Mark.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And when it's hot or something, and you can look good because you're on sweat. It's the opposite.
Yeah, so I was the cantor there for 23 years. No, not me. No. But I have a ribbon for you because this was your sister, right?
Let me have your attention, please. We're going to be starting our service.
Do you want me to pin it on you, or do you want to put it on? It goes on the right side of the end.
Can I do it?
Can I do it on your collar, or do you want it here? You can always move it. I just feel like it's a little thicker on the collar. We're going to start the service in a moment, but we'll all follow behind. If you're comfortable walking, we're going to follow behind the casket. Okay, we'll help escort.
Ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps stronger on the other side. That side, pull out. Ready? As I pull out, you're going to grab the tools. And we're going to go this way forward. Got it? Slowly, bring it up. Lift it up a little bit. Out. Continue holding on. One, slowly. We're stopping here. We're going to lift the casket one more time. We're going to go over the killing device. We're going to get it separation. Okay, we're going to go up there. Yeah, we're going to go up to the left corner. Watch your toes. Step that way out of the way of the camera.
We have a few extra chairs, and I would like to encourage you to take advantage of them, please. Please don't be shy. It's not a sign of weakness, but rather of wisdom. Before we get started, if you have a cell phone with you, if you could kindly put it in the silent mode or turn it off, we would appreciate it. I'm Rabbi Cantor Nancy Landsman of Congregation Ahavat Olam in Glenview, and I am truly honored to be officiating this service today for Judy. I did not have the opportunity or the privilege to meet her or know her, but I am very grateful to her sons, Brian and Michael, for taking the time to share their memories of her, and as sad as we are to say goodbye to her, we are here to celebrate her life. So on behalf of Michael and Beth, Brian and Debbie, and Phyllis and Rachel, Jaden, Adam, Aviva, and Jonah, I want to thank you all for being here today. Those of you here physically, as well as those of you joining us remotely, thank you for lending your support and your love to the family during this very difficult time. We begin the service with the traditional act of Kriya. Many times mourners will tear their clothing as a sign of mourning, but black ribbons have been given to Phyllis and Michael and Brian, so I'd like to invite the three of you to please stand right there at your place. So in lieu of tearing your clothing, in a moment I will invite the three of you to make a tear in this ribbon to symbolize how your hearts are torn. We know everyone's hearts are torn as we say goodbye to your sister, to your mother. And there are traditional Hebrew words that are said before making this tear, and I'd like to invite the three of you to repeat these words after me. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Dayan HaEmet. These words mean, praised are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, judge of truth. From the bottom of the ribbon up towards the circular button, you can now make a tear as little or as far as you would like. You'll notice, Brian and Michael, that your ribbon is placed on the left side over your heart. It's only children who wear the ribbon on the left side over the heart, because there is no bond as unique and special as that between parent and child. You have a choice, the three of you, to wear this ribbon only today, or the first week of mourning, or the period of Shloshim, 30 days. You also have a choice to wear this ribbon tucked in the inside, or you can wear it on the outside for others to see. And if you choose to wear it on the outside, and people see you wearing this black torn ribbon, hopefully they will understand that you are in a period of mourning, and they will have compassion on you. Please be seated. We come to this sacred place drawn by the eternal ties that bind your souls to the soul of your beloved Judy. In learning about her, I've selected some readings, some perhaps that might be familiar, and poems that I felt were quite fitting. Beginning with this first reading written by Rabbi Elvin Fine, that many of us rabbis choose to read to our congregations on the holiest day of the year, also many times at funerals. We read this toward the end of the day on Yom Kippur, when we gather for the service called Yisker, We remember at the Yisker service those who are no longer alive, whose memory, however, we hope remains alive and is always in our hearts. So physically they're gone, but spiritually they're always with us. This poem speaks about life and how blessed we have been to have been a part of our loved ones' journey. Each and every one of us is living our own unique journey, and certainly you all knew Judy and I did not, so you know how unique her journey was. There were plenty of struggles, but also times of joy and celebration. And so as I read this reading by Rabbi Elvin Fine, I invite you to think about the times that you were blessed to have shared part of Judy's journey. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Joseph Epstein wrote, "We do not choose to be born. We do not choose our parents or our times or country of birth or the circumstances of our upbringing. We do not, most of us, choose to die or the time or conditions of our death. But within all this realm of choicelessness, we do choose how we shall live, courageously or in cowardice, honorably or dishonorably, with purpose or adrift. We decide what is important and what is trivial. What makes us significant is what we do or refuse to do. We decide and we choose. And so we give definition to our lives." I think we can all agree. Judy had, like we all do, choices in life, and she chose to be a survivor. She chose to live a life full of color and full of love for her family. At times such as this, we look for comfort, and we often find that when we turn to the book of Psalms, Psalm 121.
I will lift up mine eyes unto the mountains. From whence shall my help come? My help cometh from the Lord, who made heaven and earth. Turning to your service folders, you find another psalm, the 23rd Psalm, a psalm that I think speaks to all of us, regardless of our faith or tradition. And so I'd like to invite all of you here, as well as those of you joining us remotely, if you know the words to the 23rd Psalm. We have extra copies. If you are in need of one, you can just raise your hand and one will be brought to you. Let us all join together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In meeting with Michael and Brian, it was clear to me how much they loved their mother and how much she loved them and her whole family. So I chose this poem, whose unfortunately the author is unknown. The poem is entitled The Greatest Gift. One of the greatest gifts that life can give to anyone is the very special love that families share. As years go by, it's good to know that there will always be certain people in our lives who care. For there are countless things that only families have in common, and memories that no one else can make. And these precious ties that bind a family together are bonds that time and distance cannot break. How fortunate we are when we have relatives to love us. It makes the world a happy place to be. Few gifts in life will last as long or touch the heart as deeply as the very special gift of family. So we have a few family members who would like to speak today. It is my honor to first call upon Michael to offer a few words.
First, I want to thank everybody for being here, those here in person, those live streaming. Really appreciate all of you guys being here. This is pretty unexpected, everybody knows. So I think what I first want to tell everybody is I was with my mom on Saturday on her balcony at her new place, the Carrington in Lincolnwood, which took us quite a while to get her there, and she was in her happy place. She was really happy. I would actually say she was jolly. She asked about the kids. She asked about Brian's kids. She told me the gossip in the dining room, where she could sit. She told me the recent conversations with her sister Phyllis, Phyllis's kids, with Aunt Sally, her kids, and she was jolly about everything. She talked about her friend groups that she met at the Carrington in just a few months. As I was recounting the story last night to my kids about her new friend groups, one of the kids said, "What? There's still friend groups at that age? When does this end?" For those of you who really knew my mom and her ups and downs, I really want you to know she was just really jolly just 6 days ago. She finally had her friend groups, and that's how she left us. And as I talked to my wise cousin Jack yesterday, he said, she left us on top. I think to know my mom, you really need to know her life's key experiences. My mom lived with her mom Ethel, father Joe, and big sister Phyllis, who's here in Brooklyn. At 1.5, my grandfather and grandmother were on vacation, as the story is told to me, and my grandfather, my mom's father, died of a sudden heart attack at the age of 39 on vacation. My mom told me the story that her mom would say when my mom was 1.5 years, she would spend days, maybe weeks, going over to her father's side of the bed saying, "Where's Daddy?" And she would do this for weeks. At the same time, my grandmother was stricken with grief, was overwhelmed during a time of no mental health services. Out of well-intention and likely being overwhelmed, my grandmother sent my 1.5-year-old mother to live with aunts and uncles. It was just a different time period. Not to mention full summers away beginning at age 4. There's no doubt that this family tragedy impacted everyone there, including my mom, and I think the anxiety and grief was just too hard to shake throughout her life. But she persisted. She found my dad, broke up with him about 8 times during courtship. As I'm told, when it was over, they met each other one weekend at Fire Island, had drinks, and as I'm told, the rest is history, and that's why I'm here. My father took care of my mother in the most literal of ways. He was the world's best mensch, definitely my role model on a daily basis. My mom was taken care of in the way she needed to from my father, so it worked really well. Tragically, my father passed away too soon, and quite honestly, none of us have really gotten over that. Needless to say, the last 22 years without my dad were really difficult for my mom. Every single time I saw her, she talked about my dad. She lost the 2 most important male figures in her life, her father at 1.5 and her husband at 57 years old. You can't underestimate the pain she felt from her losses. Not to mention the loss of her mom, I believe it was the next year. But she persevered through her bouts of anxiety with her strength. She carved out a personality of humor, style, and fearlessness in talking to strangers. With style, she always had the exact right outfit on for the exact right time. With her grandkids, I would tell her so-and-so's birthday's coming up, and she would interrupt me and say, "I already bought them a gift." Lo and behold, she keenly identified what each child was lacking. Even before Beth and I knew it, it was supplied. The joke in our house was, "We're going to Granny's, don't wear that ratty shirt because if you do, Granny's gonna mail you 5 new ones by tomorrow." With strangers, my mom could walk up to anyone, and I mean anyone. In a restaurant, if she saw a dish she liked, she'd actually go up to the table, find out the goods on the dish, and spend entirely way too long talking to the strangers at their night out. Of course, I was embarrassed, but definitely not as mortified as my grandchildren were on those nights. I think this happened 3 weeks ago, didn't it? It was this fearlessness in walking up to people and starting conversations that was actually her gift. And that's how I knew she would thrive at the Carrington. It took Brian and I quite a long time to get her there, literally kicking and screaming. but she was built for the Carrington. With all her loss, she was finally surrounded by an endless parade of friends. And the big question she would tell me on the phone is, which friend group am I going to be with today? I was really touched the last couple of days, receiving the sweetest phone calls from her new friends, Marilyn and Sandra, who spoke about how they, quote, adored my mom just after a few months of friendship. No wonder she was so jolly on the balcony that last Saturday, 6 days ago. She was right where she meant to be. I just wish she had more time to feel on top after the years of tragedy that she had to endure. Before I leave, I just want to say a special thank you to her sister Aunt Phyllis and her sister-in-law, who's really her sister too, Aunt Sally in Baltimore. You're the two that kept my mom going. You were the ones that were there when I couldn't be there for various reasons, physical and emotional. And you guys were the ones that were always talking to her. On a daily basis, I understand. She adored you, and I adore both of you. Thank you.
And now it's my honor to call upon Brian.
Thank you, Michael. Although I am feeling sadness, and still a bit in shock, I want to say a few words in celebration of the 80 years of life in which my mom touched so many lives, including the ones here today and streaming at home. As Michael talked about, my mom was a survivor. She experienced traumatic events early on in her life, including the loss of her father when she was less than 2 years old. Her first marriage, as I was told, was riddled with abuse. But then she met my father, broke up with my father, who I didn't know was 8 times. It's good to always learn new things. And then finally married the man she would make a life together with. But it wasn't always easy. As a young woman raising 2 young children, she had to pick up her family after only place she ever lived, New York City and New Jersey, and come halfway across the country to the Chicago area. At heart, she was always a New Yorker, but she spent the last 43 years living in Chicago. And then the traumatic and sudden death of my father while she was only 57 years old. Despite the shock and pain of this trauma, she persisted and made the difficult decision to move from our childhood home in Schaumburg to build a new life for herself in Hoffman Estates, where she met new friends, joined new card games, and found the strength and resolve to date again. And finally last year, when she knew she needed to stop driving and needed to move one final time to the Carrington, where she was just finding her groove and meeting new friends almost on a daily basis, she persisted. She continued to survive. Through it all, my mom brought such love and care to her family and friends. She was a devoted wife, a caring sister to Phyllis, and had a deep relationship with Sally, her sister-in-law, who also really is her sister, as Michael mentioned. And they talked every day, right up to the end, even though they lived so far apart. She continued to have friendships that spanned decades. It is no surprise that her 2 kids have chosen professions that are about helping others. It is no wonder that both Michael and I believe in fairness and equality and love for everyone. We got that from her, as well as my father. One of the things I admired most about my mom was her ability to talk to anyone, anywhere, which Michael mentioned a few different times. As Michael mentions, it says to me, it's the gift of gab. And I can personally remember a bunch of times, but the one was sticking out the last couple of days was when we went on a trip, her and me, after my father passed, to Mexico, and she met a friend. She met a stranger on a plane, and then they became best friends. Because I don't talk to anybody on a plane that I don't talk and embarrass me, but the next thing you know, we saw that woman like 3 or 4 times throughout the week. And of course, she tried to set me up with her daughter. So needless to say, she wasn't the best matchmaker, but that worked out just fine, right, Debbie? Raising two rambunctious kids could not have been easy. Between Michael and I playing football in the living room and shattering the window, I believe that was you who did that, or somehow a bat going into the garage door out of frustration of missing a fastball, and I actually think that might have been thrown by Dave, who was here with us. I am sure us restless kids drove her crazy. Yet she continued to get us to soccer, basketball, and football practice every week, year after year. And then pushing us to do better in school, go to college, go on having amazing careers and families. For that, Mom, thank you. I am sorry that my mom was not able to have more time at her new home, which I feel is bringing her a level of contentment I had not seen in years. My mom was going to activities every day, meeting many friends and preparing for knee surgery so she could take full advantage of the exercise classes at the swimming pool at the Carrington. Over the past couple of days, we have heard several of her friends reach out and tell us how much they adored her, no doubt because of her talent to connect to strangers and new people. I was looking forward to another decade of her thriving in a community with these new friends, but alas, that was not in the cards. I was recently reminded of the saying that you live as long as the last person that remembers you. Though we say goodbye to my mom today, she continues to live with all of us, just as so many of our other family members that have passed on continue to do so, some buried right here. I am glad that she got to spend time with my children and that my children had her as a granny during their formative years. Her life was a blessing, and may she live long in our hearts, memories, and souls. Thank you.
And now it's my honor to call upon her sister, Phyllis.
As my son says, I'm verklempt, but I will get hold of myself. You both said wonderful things about Judy, your mom. And she loved you dearly, very much so. My sister's passing has been so shocking. Words can't express. So unexpected, so untimely, and out of the realm of order as a sister, since I am obviously her older sister, also her only sister. I have not even had time to really fully process what has occurred. Sisters share a unique bond. It is a togetherness even when you're not together, even when you're not on speaking terms, even when you're not always in line with one another. You are there for each other. And I tried to be, as did she. But she had a harder time. And I understood that. And we shared many talks, and she could always talk to me. My memories cover her being born, her growing up through her teen years, and onward into a very stunning woman. And I might add, she was also, without a doubt, the most beautiful baby. I can tell you, I remember her beautiful big green eyes, her tiny little nose, and she remained beautiful. How thrilled I was to have a sister. I was 7 years old. I even convinced my mother and father to name her Judy, because I had a girlfriend whose little sister was named Judy. obviously, I wanted to emulate her. For that particularly, Judy was eternally grateful to me. She never liked the name Zelda, but it had been our grandmother's name. So Zelda became Judy's middle name instead. Better. I am so thankful for the years we shared. Judy had her struggles, and I know that she fought bravely to find contentment and peace of mind, something we all take for granted or don't have to strive every day to obtain. I pray that my sister finds everything she sought on this earth in heaven. I loved my beautiful sister dearly, and I always will.
And now it's my honor to call upon her granddaughter, Rachel.
Granny was a wonderful grandmother to me. She was someone who always wanted what was best for her kids and grandkids. She was always so excited to see me and to hear about my life. She would ask me all about my friends, school, and activities. Once I went to college, I was worried it'd be hard to keep in touch with people, but Granny continued to text and call me often, asking about how I was doing and what I was up to. She was always thinking about me. All my life, we've bonded over shopping, nails, hair, makeup, and all the girly things I loved. Shopping was something we always loved doing together. It is still hard to believe that Granny's actually gone, but I'll continue to remember all the great times we had together and all her memories of constant love and support for her family.
So, as I told Michael and Brian, I'd like to speak last, so not to take away from anything that you all want to say, and I'll fill in whatever blanks might be left. There aren't a lot of blanks, but I think a few things worth mentioning and some perhaps worth repeating. She really loved her family, her sons, her daughters-in-law, her sister, her sister-in-law, her adopted sister, Sally. We're sorry you couldn't be here today. She loved her grandchildren deeply. For many years, she was a homemaker, but then she decided to work, and she succeeded as a realtor. She had this wonderful way of connecting with people. And I think as a good realtor, you need to be able to connect well with your potential clients. And with her wonderful gift of gab, she succeeded and she enjoyed it. She just maybe enjoyed being with the people more than selling the houses, but that's okay. She just connected well with people. She had this charisma. She enjoyed playing canasta and rummy cube and mahjong. She loved to read the newspaper and novels, whether it was Danielle Steele or, Oprah or New York Times, book list, just a variety of books. In recent years, she became a huge Cubs fan, and she knew so much, perhaps even more than her sons, they admitted, about some of the players and what was going on with the team. She was someone that could easily make friends. And not everyone has that ability. Not everyone feels comfortable talking to a complete stranger. It's worth repeating because I think we can all learn from the way that Judy chose to live her life. From all the struggles that she experienced, her life could have been very different. But with her wonderful eye for color and fashion, and her sense of style, and her love for people, and her determination to be a survivor and rise above all that she had to face and endure throughout her life, I think that we can all learn from her, because I think we all experience times of grief and difficulty, especially these last couple years. We've all been affected by the pandemic. But I think if we can focus on what we heard from Michael Howell and from Brian, she was finally in her happy place. She went out. Everybody wants to go out on a high note, right? Although it's too soon. We didn't expect this to happen. But with that recent upswing and how happy, really jolly she was, and for people to say how much they adored her, she will be missed. We know that none of us are going to live forever. We do believe in the Jewish faith that our spirit, our soul, can live on forever. Some of us believe that this can happen by those of us who are still here, continue to speak about Judy, share the stories, document them in a variety of ways. We know that technology is always changing. I don't think a piece of paper is going to go out of style anytime in our lifetime. I could be wrong. But find various ways to record these memories so that when Judy's grandchildren grow up and perhaps have children of their own, their children will know about the life that Judy Gladstein lived and how she fought and strove to rise above all the struggles that she had to face. Cherish your memories, and may they be a source of comfort to you in the weeks and months and years ahead. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous, is forever a blessing. And to that we say, Amen. The dust returns to the earth as it was. The spirit returns to God who gave it. It is only the house of the spirit which we now lay within the earth. The spirit itself cannot die. We pray to you, O God, to receive in mercy the soul of our departed Judy Gladstein. As Judy's casket is being lowered into the grave, I share with you this beautiful poem by David Harkins. You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty, and turn your back. Or you could do what she would want. Smile. Open your eyes. Love. And go on. Turning to your service folders, you find our two concluding prayers. First, the El Male Rachamim, and then finally on the back cover, the Mourner's Kaddish. If you are able to rise for these two prayers, I invite you to please rise. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Pamromi, Hamsei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanvei Hashchina Im Kedoshim Uteorim Kizar Rekia Mazirim Et Nishmat Yehudit Bat Yosef Shalecha Leolama Harachamim Yastirei habesite kinafecha leolamim Bitzror hachayim et nishmatam Adonai unachalatam v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkavav v'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Judy Gladstein, daughter of Joseph and Ethel, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. On the back cover, you find the Mourner's Kaddish. It is said that the angels brought this prayer down from heaven. It possesses wonderful power. Truly, if there is any bond strong enough to link heaven to earth, it is this prayer. Many believe it speaks about death, but actually there is no reference to death. Rather, we affirm God's glory and omnipotence. So let us all join together in exalting God's name with these traditional words of the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, Bialma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imeru. Amen. Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mivarach Leolam Ulamei Almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiran ba'alma v'imeru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabbah min Shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imeru. Amen. May the author of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort all the bereaved among us. And let us all say, Amen. You may be seated for a moment. For those of us, at the end, for those of us who will not be buried in Israel, we bring a little Israel here with this pouch of holy earth from the Mount Olives in Jerusalem, Israel. I will invite Phyllis and Brian and Michael and your spouses to share the contents of this pouch. You can pour a little into your hand and then into the grave, or directly from the pouch. And then after you place the holy earth into the grave, I will invite you and then everyone else who is here, perhaps the grandchildren, and then followed by the rest of you who are here, to participate in what we consider one of the greatest mitzvah, good deed of all, and that is to participate in the burial process with the traditional 3 shovels of earth, or 3 handfuls of earth. You'll notice here we have 2 small buckets with small shovels in it, so we will be able to have 2 people go at a time to place the 3 shovels into the grave. Some people turn the shovel upside down, making it more challenging to shovel, and that is symbolic of how difficult it is to bury somebody that we love. When you're done with the shovel, just return it to the bucket where you found it. We never pass the shovel. It is our hope that each individual participating in this mitzvah does so from his or her own free will. So Phyllis, Brian, and Michael, and your spouses to come forward. It doesn't matter who chooses. In between the 2 buckets. And when you do come forward, please just be careful. The ground is not level, so we want to make sure everyone is safe. Yeah, so once you've done the holy earth, then you can share, just dump it all in, all down in the first. All in, and then you can start with the 3 shovels. 3 shovels, because we have to go at a time, 3 shovels, and then just the shovel over. Would the grandchildren want to start coming forward?
Once you've participated, we'll ask that you please return back to where you were standing during the service.
Just go back under the tent and have a seat.
parents want to start coming forward and stand in the two lines behind the grandchildren? People go to time. Has everyone participated that would like to? Okay. So, the people here at the cemetery are going to be using some equipment to fill in the rest of the grave. You are welcome to stay for that, or you could choose to go back to your cars. I will point out the Shiva information is listed here in your service folders at the Gladstein residence at 1122 Seward Street in Evanston. Today, upon returning from the cemetery until 8:30, and Monday from 5 to 8 p.m. Also, I just want to wish you all a safe and enjoyable holiday weekend. When you see the beautiful colors from the fireworks in the sky, think of Judy and her love of color, and just think of the happy times that you were able to be with her throughout your life and her life. Thank you again for coming, and this does conclude the service. Thank you so much.